On August the 25th, 2017, a ragtag band of Rohingya insurgents launched a series of wildcat attacks on Myanmar security forces, and they killed about a dozen Myanmar personnel. And after that, the Myanmar military launched a brutal crackdown against the general Rohingya population in the west of Myanmar, in Rakhine state, in which we believe thousands of people were killed, and it prompted a mass exodus of Rohingya into neighboring Bangladesh. About 750,000 people fled over the border, joining more than 200,000 Rohingya that were already in Bangladesh who had fled previously. The Rohingya who fled to Bangladesh, they shelter in overcrowded camps with very limited access to the internet and apparently poor sanitation, and basically little prospect of returning to Myanmar. There have been discussions between Myanmar and Bangladesh about their repatriation, but it seems that very few Rohingya are willing to go back because they're not convinced it'll be safe for them to return to where they fled from. The Rohingya are a ethnic minority that have been living in Myanmar in many cases for generations. The vast majority are Muslims in predominantly Buddhist country. They have their own language and their own culture, but they are regarded by Myanmar authorities as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, and they are not granted citizenship in the vast majority of cases. They're not allowed to vote. They can't really travel when they're living in Myanmar. And Bangladesh doesn't really want them either. They're not allowed citizenship in Bangladesh. So really they're citizens of nowhere. There have been some international actions, implementation of sanctions by the United States, for example, and some other Western nations. The United Nations had an investigation that concluded that there was genocidal intent in Myanmar's crackdown against the Rohingya. Myanmar denies that. It said it was just conducting clearance operations in response to these insurgent attacks by Rohingya rebels. One West African nation of Gambia, which is predominantly Muslim, launched a legal case at the International Court of Justice in The Hague against Myanmar, accusing it of genocide. And Myanmar's de facto leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, went to defend Myanmar. Not very successfully, it seemed, because the court later issued a provisional ruling ordering Myanmar to refrain from any further atrocities and telling it to preserve evidence. But it is really just a sort of milestone in a long-running saga for which the Rohingya can really see no light at the end of the tunnel, because there seems to be little prospect of them returning to the country and getting citizenship in Myanmar, which is what they want.